Hi there, everybody. Welcome to this edition of the Out of Bounds podcast. I'm John Luck with Mary Evers, and we have a lot to get to. I think this is the first time we've had like multiple sports on an Out of Bounds podcast in months.
But this will be the last time until December when the NBA comes back, so don't get used to it.
December 22nd, get ready.
We'll see.
All right, let's start off with baseball here. The Dodgers beat the Tampa Bay Rays 4-2 in the 2020 World Series for LA's first championship since 1988. That's a 32-year wait.
That was before you were born, John.
And I mean, anything happened before you were born, but that's another story for another time. This team was an absolute wagon, though. 4 back-to-back losses in the 2020 season, granted 60-game schedule. And they had 0 3-plus game losing streaks throughout the entire 2020 campaign. But that's not what people are talking about. What people are talking about is what happened in the 6th inning as Blake Snell was dealing 5 1/3 innings, 2 hits, an earned run, 9 Ks, 73 pitches, and Kevin Cash came out of the dugout to take the ball from someone that threw 73 pitches and had 9 strikeouts. So let's start there. What are your thoughts on what Kevin Cash did?
I think my thoughts pretty much align with everybody else on the internet. It was a dumb idea. I get that Tampa Bay's whole thing this year and the last couple of years is dealing with analytics and letting the analytics kind of run the show. And that usually when a pitcher is getting ready to face the rotation for the 3rd time, they pull the pitcher. Now, in the regular season, sure, if that's really how you want to run your team, go for it. When you're in the World Series and you're facing elimination that night and your best pitcher is doing as well as he was with only 73 pitches, you don't pull the pitcher. I don't care what the analytics say, because at some point, actual human thought and emotion has to be factored into this game. If we let baseball be run completely and totally by computers, that sport's going to be dead faster than it's already declining at this point. And honestly, what scares me the most is that this is the world that Chaim Bloom is coming from. So if there's a huge chance that for the Red Sox next season, this is the bullshit that we're going to be seeing once Chaim Bloom has the manager that he wants for this team. And I don't want to see it. It's going to aggravate the living hell out of me.
Well, here's the thing. The Red Sox have been playing this game for a long time, the analytics game. Don't forget they had, I think his name was Bill James. He was a baseball analytics person. I mean, this went back to probably 2006, 2007.
But it's never been this heavily relied upon.
No, and you're right. That's what's killing the game. Typically a baseball game, especially in a game that has no fans to maybe 15,000 fans like they had in the World Series, that type of game should take 2.5, 3 hours tops maybe, unless it's an extra inning game or – it's a 14-10 game. But typically these games should take 2.5 hours. The reason it doesn't is because you have shifts. And to me, what that says is that these general managers, these owners, these managers, they don't trust these players defensively.
No.
I mean, look at the Red Sox from back in the heyday, back in 2007 and 99 even. Nomar Garcia-Parra at shortstop. Do you think he really needed to be in a shift for the games he was healthy for? No, he could cover that field. Same thing with Dustin Pedroia. For all the stuff we give him now for not playing, back in 2007 and really up until, I'll say 2013, he was probably one of the best defensive second basemen in the game. He wouldn't need to have the shift. So what the shift does, in my opinion, is yes, it puts an extra player out there. And, if you have someone that goes oppo field, send someone over to play the shift. But what that tells me is that the players aren't trusted defensively.
Right.
That's how I take it if I was a player. Granted, if I was getting paid $25 million a year, I would do whatever anybody would want.
And I'm not saying that you should take analytics completely out of the equation. I just think it's gotten to a point where they're relying too heavily on it. If you want to look at the stats, that's fine. But when you're in a situation like Kevin Cash was during the World Series, it's time to just manage the game and not let an iPad do it. I'm sorry. It's just it's a really bad look for Tampa Bay and what they're trying to accomplish down there.
So I went on ESPN last night just to try and find stats to back everything up here.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a part on Blake Snell's player profile, his stat breakdown for how batters are against him for each time
Mhm.
in the lineup. So let's go with 2020 here. First time faced in the lineup, batters are batting for 140 with a home run, an RBI, 13 walks, and 35 strikeouts. Now we go to the second time through the lineup. Batters are 307 batting average, 7 home runs, 11 RBIs, 5 walks, and 23 strikeouts. So that's where the analytics start to get defended here. But
Right.
there were games when Blake Snell was out there for the third time through the lineup. Uh, Batters hit 304 off Snell the third time around with 2 home runs, 3 RBIs, no walks, and
Right.
5 strikeouts. Then you go back to 2019, and the batters were batting anywhere between 240 and 250 against him. Really, no shocking numbers there.
Right.
So to me, like you said, in a World Series game, if this was, game 58 and you needed to win this game to continue on the playoff chase, I could see that. But this is the World Series.
Right. And they had
The
nothing left to lose.
Well, the only defense I can give Kevin Cash, and this is a small defense,
Mm-hmm.
is if he was going to use Blake Snell in Game 7. Because Game 7, I think, would have been the very next night after Game 6.
Right.
So that's the only defense I could give Kevin Cash.
But you don't get Game 7 if your reliever
Right.
comes in and gives a home run up to Mookie Betts immediately following them pulling Blake Snell. There's no pitcher on that lineup, whether it be a starter, a closer, or somewhere in between, that is better than Blake Snell. And that night, he was doing what he does best, and they decided to go with a guy that is not as good as him, and it just doesn't make any sense.
So this is what Kevin Cash said after the game, or a snippet of what he said. I totally respect and understand the questions that come with it. Blake gave us every opportunity to win. He was outstanding. They're not easy decisions. Didn't want Mookie or Seager seeing Blake a third time. There was no set plan. As much as people think there's no set plan. Now, I didn't listen. Listen, I know that's breaking news that Kevin Cash took Blake Snell out, but I don't know if the phone needs to go crazy.
No, it's just Julian Edelman, but we'll talk about that later.
That's coming up. Don't worry. After the game, I didn't watch the game, but I heard the post-game reaction. The Dodgers were shocked that Blake Snell came out of the game. That was a Dodger-esque move because
exactly.
They've cocked up 2 of the last 3 World Series.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, they won here, and they're wagging and all, and great job for Clayton Kershaw getting to win the World Series trophy. Finally, Gabe Roberts finally gets the monkey off his back. Mm-hmm. But this is what people are going to be talking about because I think this World Series and the analytics aspect of it is what's going to kill baseball. I think I saw the numbers for the viewership, and it was one of, if not the lowest viewed World Series in history. I think it was maybe they got 10 million views for the entire 6 game.
It was
World
just
Series.
under. I think it was just under 10.
Okay, so just under 10 million people watched the World Series, and this wasn't the NBA Finals or the Stanley Cup Final that got moved. This was where the World Series is supposed to be. You didn't have to make any special adjustments or anything. And this was with a top 5 media market, and you still register under 10 million views for an entire World Series.
Right.
That's embarrassing for baseball, and they should be embarrassed and very concerned because I think owners lost something like, $3.5 billion in revenue here, and hundreds of employees are about to be laid off because they're still stuck back in the early 1900s.
Right. Yeah, no, we've known that baseball's been in a steady decline for a while, but the pandemic stuff has literally sped it up so much because it's just there was going up against basketball and hockey during the summer obviously was not ideal for the MLB at all. But even after they were done, the MLB didn't really recover ratings. And now you can probably blame that on, college football is back and the NFL was back. But usually I don't think that they would have done much better than they did this year if they weren't contending against those sports. So they've got to do something. And the first thing they've got to do is get rid of the amount that analytics plays in this game. It's not fun anymore.
No, and ESPN kind of has it right because for some of their Sunday night games this year, they had a StatCast where you can watch the game on ESPN, or you can flip over to ESPN2 and you can hear how, Nathan Eovaldi is on the 4th Sunday of the month when the wind is blowing out to right field and the guy in section 313 is buying a hot dog.
Right.
You can get stats like that. It's ridiculous to hear all these stats.
I don't really care much for the stats aspect or like hearing about it. Like if we're gonna like recap a game, obviously I want to hear and talk about the stats. During the game, not really. But it might be comparable to, I mean, it might be better than listening to A-Rod on Sunday Night Baseball because I can't stand him at all.
Here's all you need in baseball for stats: wins, losses, games back,
Mm-hmm.
batting average, home run, runs batted in, walks, strikeouts, ERA, and
Mm-hmm.
stolen bases. That's all you
Yeah.
need in baseball.
Yeah.
10 stats. Make it easy. 10
Yeah.
stats.
It's just, it's,
162 games.
I when the analytics started becoming more and more prevalent in baseball, a lot of people were like, oh, it's a nerd sport now. And I was like, just, you know what, whatever. But I'm beginning to see where these people are coming from. Like, I don't want to hear all these numbers being thrown at me when I'm just trying to enjoy and watch a baseball game. Like, if I wanted to listen to people talk about math to me, I'd go back to school. Like, I don't want to hear it. I really don't.
All right, so analytics was one part of this game. Another part of this game is brought to you by Justin Turner, the third
Yeah,
baseman of your world champions Dodgers.
right.
It was revealed, or he was taken out of the game in the eighth inning. It was later revealed after the game that Turner had tested positive for COVID-19. Now, after the game was over, so after the final pitch was thrown in the World Series, the
Mhm.
team was celebrating. Turner came back out and celebrated with the team with a mask on. Now,
Yeah.
during that celebration, he took a picture with his wife with the trophy in his hands with the mask down. He
Hmm.
tested positive for COVID-19. Now, that's not where it stopped because he took a picture with his manager, Dave Roberts, who won a battle against cancer.
Hmm.
And he hugged teammates and all, and they didn't really seem concerned. But there's a lot of angry people
Yeah.
after what Turner did.
You know what? I understand the desire to want to celebrate with your team, especially a team like the Dodgers who had been so close and denied for so long in the last couple of years. But if you're going to come out to celebrate with your team, you may as well at least try to follow the protocols. Like keep the mask on, don't take it off. If you're going to touch the World Series trophy, maybe put a pair of gloves on. Are you going to tell me that there were no gloves back there that he could have possibly put on his hands? I'm
Batting gloves?
assuming. Well, I wasn't even thinking that. I'm just thinking like the staff of the park is probably wearing them. So there's probably even rubber gloves everywhere. Don't be shown kissing your wife or hugging other people with no mask on, especially a person who has, had cancer in the past. Like, I understand the need to want to celebrate, but he went about it the complete wrong way. And what's going to happen is you're going to see him made an example of, and maybe he should be, because quite honestly I'm confused as to how he got a positive test if they're living in a bubble anyways, because the NFL, I'm sorry, not the NFL, the NHL and the NBA were able to maintain a bubble perfectly fine with no positive tests for far longer than baseball did it. How did he get the virus? It doesn't make any sense to me. So he's probably going to get punished for however it was that he obtained the virus in the first place, and then for celebrating without the proper precautions being taken. And what you're going to see is him get more of a punishment than any of the Houston Astros did for cheating.
Well, anybody can get more of a punishment than the Astros. But where he's going to get burned here is in the court of public opinion.
Yeah.
Because anywhere he goes, he's going to be continued to be asked about this until he really has a sit-down interview type of situation.
Yeah.
Now, it was kind of weird because how this all happened. Apparently, Jeff Passan reported that the lab that does the COVID test for MLB informed the league that the tests from Turner were inconclusive, so he could still play.
Right.
I mean, it probably wasn't a great idea to play, but he could still play by the letter of the law. Now, the samples from the day of Game 6 arrived, and that was where the positive test came in. And for some reason, it didn't come in until, the sixth or seventh inning by the time MLB learned about it and they told the Dodgers. Right. And the Dodgers took him off the field.
Yeah.
The scariest thing is the fact that the Dodgers have stayed around the Arlington area now for the better part of a month now, because don't forget they played the NLCS in Globe Life Park where the World Series was played. So that's kind of where there's more confusion than anything else. But to me, this was a selfish decision.
Yeah.
And I think it was the general manager for the Dodgers that said, he wanted to come out here so bad, there was no way we're going to keep him away. Guess what? You can keep him away.
Yeah.
It's very simple. Tell him to go home. Okay? If you want him to celebrate on the field, if he wants to celebrate on the field, fine. Have him go out there with the trophy and the gloves on with his wife after everybody leaves the field.
Yeah.
Okay, if it's just him and his wife and a photographer in the ballpark, okay, I could see that. But there were hundreds of people on the baseball field, and he could be seen pulling the mask down, smiling for the team picture. And
Yeah.
it just shows that these players really didn't give a damn about the
No,
COVID procedures. And
not
if
at
I'm a
all.
player in Major League Baseball, I'm more angry at Justin Turner than anybody else because after everything the owners tried to drag our name through, saying that we
Right.
couldn't be trusted, we couldn't be, we couldn't handle the guidelines, guess
Hmm.
what? In the end, it's going to show that the owners were right because Justin Turner, he blew through MLB security, he blew
Hmm.
through ballpark security to go out there on the ball field just
Right.
because he wanted his picture with the World Series trophy.
Right. And not, yeah, now God knows how close he got to these security guards who are essential workers who are not getting paid nearly as much as these baseball players are. And now they might have the virus because he's decided to be selfish about it. And I thought it was hilarious that the Dodgers went back to LA on their team plane and did not have Justin Turner or his wife on the plane. Like it did at that point, it didn't even make a difference. Like, don't decide now that you're going to distance yourself from this because you've already dragged your own name through the mud.
Classic too little, too late. Uh,
Exactly.
Now, after the news had come out of his diagnosis and the public backlash had calmed down a little bit, Turner did tweet out, "Thanks to everyone reaching out. I feel great, no symptoms at all, just experienced every emotion you can possibly imagine. Can't believe I couldn't be out there to celebrate with my guys. So proud of this team and unbelievably happy for the city of LA." So to me, I'm not
Five
reading
seconds
between the
later, he
lines
was
so much. It sounded like he tried to hide the fact he was going to be on the field. That's how it
which
sounds to me.
right, yeah, because I think what had happened, I at that point I was not watching anymore because
Analytics.
well, not no, I mean I just like I don't really care too much about I just wanted to see who won the MVP and that was pretty much it. And that's of course that whole situation is an even
It
like
was
a completely other
Corey
story.
Seager.
Yeah. So I was not watching. All I know is that someone I followed retweeted Justin Turner's tweet, and I was like, "This really sucks for him. I feel bad for the guy." And then 5 seconds later, I'm getting tweets like, "What's going on? I can't believe they're letting this happen." I was like, "I don't know what's happening anymore." And like 2 seconds after that, it was, "Oh, there's a picture of Justin Turner on the field with no mask on, hugging Dave Roberts." And I was like, how did he tweet 5 minutes ago that he can't believe he's not going to be able to play? But now all of a sudden not play, but celebrate. And now all of a sudden he's on the field. He had to have known that cameras would catch him. I mean, he got in a picture. It's not like this picture of the World Series champions were just going to go hang up at the stadium in Los Angeles and no one would ever see it again. Like, how dumb do you have to be? I don't understand it.
Selfish player Justin Turner. Now,
Oh,
MLB did release a statement the day after this is all taking place, and here's an excerpt here. Turner was placed into isolation for the safety of those around him. However, following the Dodgers' victory, it is clear that Turner chose to disregard the agreed upon joint protocols and the instructions he was given regarding the safety and protection of others. While a desire to celebrate is understandable, Turner's decision to leave isolation and enter the field was wrong and put everyone he came in contact with at risk. When
mhm.
MLB security raised the matter of being on the field with Turner, he emphatically refused to comply. To me, if we have to go through COVID situations at the start of the 2021 season and the MLBPA starts to complain about this or starts to complain about any guidelines that MLB has against this, they're
Mhm.
going to be really behind the eight ball here
Oh
because
yeah.
Justin Turner just put the ball in the owner's court here.
Yeah, they're not gonna have a leg to stand on when it comes to negotiating next season.
So let's talk about what a reasonable punishment for Justin Turner would be because, I mean, I think when the rules got remade at the start of the shortened season, I think if a player, knowingly didn't comply with the rules, he'd be kicked out for the rest of the season, which, I mean, could have
Right.
been 50 games or something like that. I
Right.
don't know if I'd go that far, but
Yeah.
I think 20 games would be reasonable for Justin Turner to miss because
Yeah.
this was a public health risk. You put
Mhm.
players' lives on the line, you put the families' lives on the line. It sounds like you're making a big deal out of this,
Yeah.
or I'm making a big deal out of this, but this is a serious situation because now these players are going to go back home, and who knows what's going to happen after that in the next 10 to 14 days.
And so many of them had small children on the field. And like I said, it's not even just the people involved in the team. It's security was put at risk too. And, you know, you can say all you want, like, oh, well, he sat on the bench with his team for 7 innings before he was even pulled. Well, you know what? He wasn't anywhere near these security guards or any other ballpark staff that he might have been in contact with while he was being an hole and getting out of the field or getting onto the field. So I have no sympathy for him. You know, I thought he was a pretty likable guy up until this, but I'm just stupid as a stupid does, I guess.
And that's our Forrest Gump quote of the day.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so let's turn our attention now to the New England Patriots as well.
No, are we not going to talk about Manfred?
All right, let's talk about Manfred.
Because I think we should talk about Manfred.
Well, I was going to talk about Rob Manfred, but I forgot about it, just like he probably forgot about the night of Game 6.
Right.
Now, if you haven't heard this, we can't play the audio for obvious reasons. Right. But just imagine how someone sounds at the bar after 6 or 7 drinks. Yeah. They start slurring their words. They try to focus on the key words, and they say them very loud. So go back and watch it on YouTube. It's all over the internet.
Honestly,
what do you make of that?
I was slightly worried for him because at first, like, yeah, your obvious, like, immediate response is like, oh my God, he's drunk. But as it was going longer, I'm like, what if something's seriously wrong with him? Like, if he's having a stroke or something, and I, like, began to actually worry for this man who I normally would not care for at all. And I was like, maybe he's faking an illness, you know, to get them to stop booing him because the boos never stopped the entire time he was speaking. So I really don't know. And someone tweeted, I can't remember who it was, but someone close to Manfred tweeted like, oh, you know, his health is fine. Okay, so his health was fine. So you did not confirm or deny that he was drunk. So maybe that was what it was, which would be insane considering they told the athletes that they couldn't use alcohol to celebrate for some reason. I still don't understand what the problem with that is.
Well, you start pouring champagne on each other and get really close. That's the only thing I can think of.
I guess so, but they're going to be really close no matter what. And, you know, if the bubble had worked and there were no positive tests, it wouldn't have been a big deal.
I mean, maybe he was celebrating the fact that this dumpster fire of a 2020 season's over.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it actually worked, obviously now because of Justin Turner, but at the time, he got out of this fine. He just had to worry about that one last game, and he could celebrate, you know, start putting some back. I'm sure the ballpark there in Arlington had a few extra drinks because there were no fans in the crowd this season. So,
and I also would like to congratulate him for officially being the worst commissioner of the 4 major sports, because even Goodell has his shit more together. And I mean, you saw the struggle he had during the draft, saying some of the names that were of the people that were being drafted, but it wasn't that bad. So congratulations to him for being out of baseball, hockey, basketball, and football, the worst commissioner of all 4.
Like, these weren't very difficult, like, hockey names to say. It's not like you're trying to say Alexander Ovechkin or something like that.
Yeah. Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Yeah, what was it? Corey Seager that won the
Corey Seager
that won the World Series MVP, brought to you by Chevrolet.
Should have just stuck with Chevy at that point.
Yeah. I mean, come on.
Also, you notice it wasn't a truck. It looked like an SUV this year. That's dumb. I like the truck.
Well, an SUV, you can put the bats inside and you can keep everything nice and secure and clean.
Yeah, but do any of these players ever actually keep the car that they win when they do these things?
Tom Brady didn't.
Yeah, I know. He gives Malcolm Butler.
Yeah.
I think do they still do that in the NFL?
Oh, God, yeah.
Oh. They don't make it, they don't drag it onto the field like the MLB does, though, I think.
Well, no, because then you're going to destroy the sod and all that. I mean, you're destroying a baseball field. The grass will grow back at some point in the next 5 months.
Fair enough.
All right. Should we talk about the Patriots now?
Oh, if we have to.
All right. I did make a special prop for the Patriots here.
You have a prop? Oh, boy. Oh, no.
If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see what's going on. If you're listening on the podcast, I've resorted to the paper bag head here. Because that's how I feel after this game.
I don't know why you're the one that
49ers.
You're the one that feels like that. I'm the one that said I was going to ride and die picking them as a winner for our picks all season. And I'm not a person that goes back on my word, so I'm not going to stop doing it, even though now Julian Edelman won't even be playing.
Yeah, I think that some is dead now. As far as the
Oh,
Patriots
God.
playoff hopes, not Julian Edelman.
Yeah.
Edelman's still alive. But I think the hopes and dreams of Patriots fans are dead.
Oh, yeah.
They lost to
For
the San
this year, at
Francisco
least.
49ers 33-6. The first time the team's lost 3 straight games since 2002. The largest margin of defeat at home with Bill Belichick as head coach, and Cam Newton was a complete
Terrible.
abomination. 9 of 15 for 98 passing yards, the fewest passing yards in a game in his entire career.
Oh,
And
God.
not one, not two, but 3 interceptions for number one there.
To be fair, and again this year, one of those interceptions was Julian Edelman's fault. I don't know why he keeps tipping balls for some reason, but it's happened on more than one occasion this season.
Well, apparently we're starting to learn a little more about what's been ailing Edelman here, but
we talk about this every week.
Right.
Every time we're like, Julian Edelman's questionable because his knee hasn't been right in years. And now all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, now that there's no hope for them, Bill Belichick's like, just go get it fixed because I don't want to deal with you anymore. There's no point in it.
Edelman did get a knee procedure. He's going to be missing, quote, some amount of time. Of course, we don't know what in the world that means. I'd be guessing the rest of the season. But
no, Shefty said it wasn't the rest of the season.
Well, I mean, the season only has 8 more weeks to go. I can't imagine he'd go out there on the field after a knee injury, but that's just me. I'm not a doctor. I'm just a guy who has a sack-faced paper bag.
Do you play one on television?
No. Damn. Thank God.
Okay.
So I think the worst part about this is there were no bright spots for the Patriots. The best offensive performances, here they are. Jacoby Myers, 4 receptions for 60 yards. Damian Harris, 10 rushes for 58 yards. Rex Burke had 3 receptions for 35 yards, and everybody else had under 20 yards.
They have 100 running backs, and none of them can run.
Then you look at the other side of the ball for Jimmy Garoppolo, who returned to Foxborough for the first time as a member of the 49ers. 20 of 25, 277 yards. He had 2 interceptions and no touchdowns. But I think this looks more at the supporting cast around him, because we talked about for months and years that Tom Brady didn't have the supporting cast around him. And, I mean, this season's going to put that one to bed there, because we know that there's nobody around Cam Newton right now.
Yep.
Jeff
and there's
Wilson,
plenty around Tom Brady right now.
Yeah, obviously. Jeff Wilson had 3 touchdowns, 112 yards, 17 carries. I think he was a practice squad running back, too, coming into this game. He got called up to the main roster. So you just got absolutely destroyed by a practice squad running back. This is the New England Patriots, the team that's won 6 Super Bowls in the past 20 years, and you just got your face kicked in by a practice squad running back named Jeff Wilson.
I would also like to point out that this is the second time this season that they've been shown up by a wide receiver that was drafted after N'Keal Harry.
N'Keal Harry left the game with a concussion. Obviously, I can't, belittle that.
Hold him for that.
But where has where's N'Keal Harry been this season?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
he may have gotten a concussion this week, but he wasn't doing anything beforehand either.
I think he had a non-contact concussion this entire season. Okay, he hasn't really done anything for the New England Patriots here. He's been, locker neighbors with Cam Newton. He was supposed to be Cam Newton's number 1 or number 2 guy.
Yeah. And
I don't even know if N'Keal Harry is worthy of being on this roster, the dumpster fire garbage heap that it is right now.
I think Cam Newton has been having more luck with Damiere Byrd than N'Keal Harry. And that's not even really saying much, because I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Damiere Byrd's a fantastic receiver. But he's caught a whole lot more than N'Keal Harry has, and probably not more than Edelman. But we don't have Edelman at this point, so who knows what's going to happen?
And how about this fun stat here? James White, the guy that won Super Bowl 51 on a nice little short pass from Tom Brady, one of the biggest plays in the NFL history. Guess what he did on this past Sunday? Guess how he did? The running back, James White.
Yep.
1 reception, 3 yards.
Yeah.
3 yards of offense for James White. That's embarrassing.
But to be
That's
fair,
abysmal.
in James White's defense, if I'm him, I'm not caring about football anymore. I really do. Not right now. Not with his mom still in the hospital recovering from that accident that, also killed his father. So
Right.
if I'm him, I'm not going to sit here and criticize James White because I have never been in his situation and I hope I never am. So
Right.
I'm not going to sit here and criticize him. I'm really not.
No, I'm not criticizing James White and his performance on the field. I'm just saying how the Patriots are using him on the field, only
Yeah.
getting him 1 reception for 3 yards. I understand what James White has gone through, and nobody should ever have to go through that.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to belittle that. It's just
Right.
how he's being used on the field, because you would think with someone like him, you could get him a few more targets at least. He only had 1 target, and that was the reception.
But if I was another team getting ready to play the Patriots, James White would be the one that the offensive weapon that I would point out as being the most dangerous, which is depressing because he's a running back. But that's how it is right now. His wide receivers are doing nothing, and they've got like half a tight end. So
That's a lot of credit, half a tight end.
If defenses are taking James White out of the game, that's probably their number one priority right now.
So let's discuss the Patriots receiving core right now, because this is, you want to talk about murderer's row here for offensive weapons. Here's the top receivers on the Patriots.
Yeah.
Damiere Byrd, N'Keal Harry, Jacoby Myers, Gunnar Olszewski, Matthew Slater. That's your receiving core.
You know how on 98.5 they do the Wheel of Gutless Bums with the Red Sox relievers? They got to do something like that with the wide receivers, because those are a bunch of gutless bums, just like the pitching staff of the Boston Red Sox.
So the Patriots fall to 2-4 for the first time in a long time. And we put this survey out on our Twitter page at OOB New England. And it was asking you, after the blowout loss to the 49ers, the most concerning thing about the Patriots is, we gave you 3 choices: Cam Newton, coaching, or wide receiving depth. And Cam Newton won 60-40 as far as that survey is concerned.
Yeah, because I don't think anyone voted for coaching.
No
one in New England.
No, nobody voted for coaching, but
yeah,
I think there's a deficiency there as far as coaching is concerned.
I think the problem with their coaching staff right now is just the simple fact that Bill Belichick has not been replacing the coaches that people have been hiring off his staff. And we talked about this last year, not, obviously not on a podcast, but on Out of Bounds, and about how they didn't really have a defensive coordinator, and Bill Belichick has been taking care of all that stuff for the most part, or overseeing his son taking care of that, or Gerard Mayo taking care of that. And I think what they need to do is actually just hire a defensive coordinator and not just use a position coach to call the plays. They need someone who's going to actually focus on that. And now, mind you, last year, defense obviously wasn't their issue, but it's becoming an issue now. And I think Bill Belichick is stretching himself and his other coaches far too thin right now.
I hope that this game is just an anomaly and it's not what we had to expect here.
Oh,
but here's some anomaly. Well, here are some numbers from this past Sunday's game against the 49ers. Total first downs, 26 for the 49ers, 17 for the Patriots. Total net yards, 467 for the 49ers, 241 for the Patriots. That's 226 more yards. They almost doubled the Patriots as far as total offensive yards.
Yeah.
Going down the list here, third down conversions, the Patriots 1 of 6.
I was going to say, did
the
they
49ers 5 of 9? Okay, I understand that there are some glaring issues here, and a lot of it is on the defensive side of the ball, in my opinion. But Bill Belichick has to look at himself in the mirror and say, do I want to do this anymore? Because there have been moments in the season, and you can even go back to the previous seasons as well, where it looks like Belichick isn't as in tune with the team as he was in years past. And listen, if Belichick wants to go step away or reduce his role, fine. He deserves to do that after the countless years and the countless championships he's brought here.
Yeah.
But if you're just going to be going around and thinking that you're the Patriots and you can just win any game because you're the Patriots, no. And I think the 49ers showed you that. I didn't expect the Patriots to win. We had the picks coming up, and I picked the 49ers last week. But I didn't think the Patriots would lose. I didn't think the Patriots would quit. And that's what they did.
Yeah.
They
Oh,
quit in the
100%.
first half of this game. They quit in the first quarter. Like I left my house when we were watching the game, and I didn't really feel bad about it. That's
No,
how it is now.
I think after the first quarter, I was like, oh, this is just going to be trash. So I put Red Zone back on because I would have preferred to watch other games as well as like every once in a while checking back in on that game than just straight up watching the Patriots game.
All right, Stephon Gilmore has been rumored to have put his house on the market. It's rumored that he'll be getting traded or getting cut from the Patriots.
Yeah.
Quickly here, what do you make of that?
I mean, I wouldn't be too surprised to see him traded at this point. I think Bill Belichick is like I've got to figure out something else because what I'm doing is obviously not working, and he's got like the same amount of flags on him this year than he did last year all season, so that's concerning. And he just has not been playing up to the standard that he was last year when he was defensive player of the year, and it's a lot of money in his contract. So if they can get a couple of picks or maybe even some offensive help for Stephon Gilmore, it is what it is.
To me, there's nobody untouchable on the Patriots right now.
Oh,
From top
100%.
to bottom, nobody's
Mm-hmm.
untouchable. Now, I
No.
think you're going to have to try and I think with a few players, you'd have to wait to see the best offer. Joe Tooney, Shaq
Right.
Mason,
Yeah.
Isaiah Wynn, I think is a player that you could get a good amount for. Same thing with
Yeah.
Stephon Gilmore. Looking at the Patriots' remaining schedule here, at Buffalo, I don't think that's a win. At the Jets, that should be a win. That better
if
be a
it's
win.
not, I'm just going to become a fan of a different team at that point.
Home against Baltimore, that's probably going to be a loss. At Houston, who knows now? Arizona's on fire. The Chargers, the Rams, both games on the road. Then you round out with the AFC competition, including Tua Tagovailoa.
Oh, I forgot about that.
To me, I think the Patriots are in rebuild mode.
Oh yeah.
Now I don't think we're in the 2-15 or 2-14 tank for Trevor mode, but I think this is an important time for the Patriots because now they can figure out which players they can go into the future with.
Yeah.
Julian Edelman probably isn't going to be one of those players now. But,
Yeah.
Demir Bird, Jacoby Myers, I think those are some reputable players. Same thing with Damian Harris. So I think what Bill Belichick has to do over the next couple of days here, the next few days, because the trade deadline is November 3rd, is figure out what players you want to have not just this year, but next season. The 2020 season for the Patriots is over, okay? That's how I'm viewing this. It's over.
Playoff-wise, yeah.
Right. All right, so that's my sad view on the Patriots.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some other teams that didn't decide to absolutely blow chunks on a Sunday afternoon.
Or Sunday night.
Well, one team did decide to blow chunks, and that is the Atlanta Falcons. They lost to the Detroit Lions 23-22. Todd Gurley scored a touchdown with 1:04 left to go. Unfortunately for the Falcons, that's not what you want to happen because if he had stopped before the goal line, he would have been able to run the clock out, get a victory for Atlanta. Again, they choke away a second-half victory. T.J. Hawkinson, a game-winning 11-yard touchdown reception with no time left. And one trade target for a lot of teams, Kenny Golladay, 6 receptions for 114 yards.
Did you see, I don't know when it was released, but I just saw it this morning. Apparently Matt Ryan was mic'd up during that Falcons game. And someone put out the video of him telling Todd Gurley, whatever you do, don't score. And I just laughed so hard because he really, it was just like such a 2020 thing to happen. Like you're just fall at the goal line. And I was even like watching that game, I was even angrier because not our BTV league, but the other fantasy league I'm in, I was going up against Todd Gurley. And I was like, I cannot believe that just happened because now I had more points against me on fantasy. And he just almost lost the game. And it turned out he did, in fact, lose the game for his team.
Falcons are going to Falcon.
You want to talk about the last dumpster? The Cowboys, because Andy Dalton was hurt and then some rando was in there at quarterback.
Listen, I stopped watching the Cowboys after Dak's foot turned the other way.
Apparently, this guy only could throw to one receiver because I think Amari Cooper had like 11 points and Kenny Galladay, no, I'm sorry, Michael Gallup and CeeDee Lamb had combined 0.2 points in fantasy.
And one of those receivers is on my team, but
Yeah,
keep
well, one of them was on
rubbing
mine
that in.
too. My
Uh,
receivers in my fantasy football league and our BTV league had a combined 4 points out of 3 receivers, and 3 of those points was Julian Edelman.
I had Devontae Adams. He scored me 45, and I still lost. Next up here, Cleveland and Cincinnati. The Browns improving to 5-2. The Cleveland Browns above 500 by a lot here. Baker Mayfield, 5 touchdown passes on 22 of 28 passing.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow, 35 of 47, 406 yard passing,
Mm-hmm.
and 3 touchdowns to go along with an interception. But the story of the game, Odell Beckham Jr. tearing his ACL. He is done for the year. He was a receiver that Patriots for the past, 6 years have been rumored to trade for.
I know.
And clearly that's not going to happen.
The worst thing is he got injured making a tackle on a Baker Mayfield interception. Now, if that is not the most Browns thing to happen, I don't know what else is. And honestly, as good as the Browns seem to be right now, I'm still like I still feel like I'm being fooled somehow. Like I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop and them to start being terrible again. But I guess we'll see.
With the extra playoff spot, I think that they have a good chance of being in the playoffs, which is kind of strange to say. They're going to be buyers at the trade deadline, I would imagine.
And I'm sure Pittsburgh will eliminate them in the first round.
I mean, Pittsburgh is a beast right now.
I think they still have to play Pittsburgh one other time too, so who knows?
Pittsburgh 6-0 for the first time since 1978, the year they won the Super Bowl. They beat Tennessee in a battle of 5-0 teams, 27-24. Yeah. James Conner, 20 carries, 82 yards to go along with 3 receptions and 29 yards. For the Titans, A.J. Brown, 6 receptions for 153 yards and a touchdown. But the time of possession is where this game was won for the Steelers. They had the ball on offense for about 13 minutes more than the Titans. That's almost another quarter.
Pittsburgh is completely rolling right now. And I think no matter what you say about any other team, they have the best offense in the league. Because Ben Roethlisberger is playing better than he has in the last couple of seasons. And he looks more like prime Roethlisberger than he has in a while. And he has 3 receivers that he can trust to throw any type of pass to, which is an incredible feat for any team right now. And not to mention James Conner is a really good back. So, and they have Ebron is their tight end, and Vance McDonald. And so those are 2 pretty decent tight ends. You know, they're not George Kittle or Travis Kelce, but they're really good tight ends. So I don't see much being able to stop this Steelers team right now.
You talk about the offensive side of the ball. I'm looking at the defensive side of the ball.
That too,
Minka Fitzpatrick has been a beast in the secondary, and I believe the defense for the Steelers is projected to have around 70, 75 sacks this season.
Not to mention the
be top 5.
Well, and there's rumors that the Steelers are trying to trade for JJ now too, which would just be the end of it. They should just give the Steelers the Super Bowl trophy at that point.
I mean, hell, go for broke. Go trade for Gilmore.
Finally, right?
Finally, on our recap, the game of the week, I think, in my opinion, Arizona and Seattle. Game that went into overtime. Zane Gonzalez, a game-winning 48-yard field goal in overtime. But it almost didn't happen because he hit a 44-yard field goal to send the game to overtime. Yeah. But right before that, his coach, Cliff Kingsbury, called a timeout, not meaning to, but ending up icing his kicker.
Yeah. And that was probably one of the best games of the week. And I think I say this about every time at any game that Russell Wilson plays in, I'm like, oh, this was the best game of the week. And yeah, he lost this week. But it was such a good and competitive game. And now we're finally seeing what Arizona is capable of. And I think Arizona, with the exception of maybe the Browns, is the first really terrible team that no one counts on to really make a name for themselves as a winning football team. And the NFC West is just and it's the exact opposite of the NFC East. So what they should do is take 2 teams and switch them so that there's 2 good teams and 2 bad teams in each division. And everyone that's in the NFC West can get a playoff spot now.
You know what? Don't talk bad about the NFC East. Their leading team right now, the Philadelphia Eagles at 2-4-1. So don't
Yep.
badmouth the East. Uh, just to get back to a point you made about the quarterbacks, Russell Wilson and
Yeah.
Kyler Murray, they had a shootout. To me, I think you could cover up both names and just try and figure out who did what.
I know.
Wilson, 33 of 50, 388 yards passing, 84 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. But I think more importantly, Tyler Lockett, 15 receptions, 200 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Tyler Lockett is the reason why I lost to Jeff this week. He had 53 fantasy points in our league.
You're the Jets of our league. But anyways, Kyler Murray, 34 of 48, 360 yards, 3 touchdowns to go along with 14 carries and 67 yards.
Yeah.
If the Cardinals can make this interesting and be in the playoff hunt until week 14 or 15, that's going to be a go-to destination for free agents because you have Larry Fitzgerald, who's probably on his way out for retirement, but you also have DeAndre Hopkins, who re-signed, and you have Kyler Murray, obviously, who's going to be around for a while as well. So I think the Cardinals can make a good amount of noise and make things really interesting against the 49ers and the Seahawks in the NFC West.
I also think that Russell Wilson just has severe bad luck in that stadium because, as you may recall, that was a stadium that Malcolm Butler picked him off the goal line. So the Patriots won Super Bowl 49. I guess it's just a bad place for him. I mean, he always performs really well until the last second and then can't pull it off.
The only games he's ever thrown an interception in that building was this past Sunday on Sunday Night Football and Super Bowl 49. The only times he's thrown an interception there.
Yep.
All right, so that's a look at the NFL for Week 7. I had no idea. This kind of came up quick here. This is the 25th year of the TD Garden being in existence, and there have been some top moments, and the Boston Globe decided to look at this. This is from Andrew Mahoney, and he listed out some of the top moments inside the TD Garden. I'll go through some of them here on an old-fashioned newspaper. There's actually, newspapers that are in print.
How old are you? Older than the Garden, that's for sure. I'm
Barely.
not.
So some of the top moments here, let's go back from 10 to 1 here. Number 10, Simone Biles winning gold at the United States Gymnastics Championships. Number 9.
I didn't even know that happened at the Garden, to be honest with you.
Yeah, half of these I had no idea actually took place.
Oh, good.
April of 2015, Providence defeating Boston University 4-3 to win the hockey championship in the NCAA.
Sure.
April 2nd through the 4th, the Women's Final Four in Boston.
Oh, yep.
Basketball. Okay. January 20th, Boston hosting the NHL All-Star Game for the first time in 25 years back in 96. So you weren't around for that. Nope. I will say the coolest.
January 96, I was 6 months before I was born.
You were minus 6 months.
I was minus 6 months.
The interesting thing about this, if you go back and watch the game, this was when Fox had the NHL rights. So they toyed around with everything. This was,
Fox toys around with everything when they have it.
I believe this was one of the first times they had the glowing puck. So the puck would be red, it would go or it would be green, it would go all around the ice. If there was a slap shot harder than 95 miles an hour, it turned red. So this was, I think, where the glowing puck began for Fox.
No, you know what? Fox tries some crazy ass things. No matter what's going on, like the football graphics, the animations are petrifying. I don't like them, and I think they try to set their production, the bar for production higher than the other teams. But you know what? I think I like the classic better. Just give me the broadcast. Stop with the analytics. Stop with the funky cartoons. Just stop it.
I like watching comic book heroes. Come on.
Oh, God. No, most 6, of them never make sense. It's like, oh, look at these two quarterbacks coming out of a saloon. Why a saloon?
Obviously.
Yeah, but no.
Number 6 here for the top moments in the Garden's history, according to the Boston Globe. And this is the game that was really instrumental in me becoming such a big green teamer. Game 6 of the 2002 Eastern Conference Finals, where the Celtics came back from 26 down in the second half. That was the game that made me a Celtics fan. Number 5, we talked about this before we came on for the podcast here. Bruins fans singing the national anthem.
That was number 5?
according to the Boston Globe, if you have a problem, go
No.
contact Andrew Mahoney. I mean, I'm just reading
well,
what he wrote.
you know who owns the Boston Globe, right?
The guy who has the wife that spends a lot of money.
The Globe. Yeah, sure. I don't want the Red Sox opinion of what's the great moments of the Garden. If you want to give me the greatest moments of Fenway, sure, I'll believe you. But they don't care about the other sports in this town.
Okay, if you're listening to the podcast and you think you're hearing static, that's just actual newspaper. So that was number 5, and I mean that was a touching moment to me. For the first few days after that happened, the fans singing the national anthem, it was very difficult to keep a dry eye.
Yeah, it was.
Number 4 here, May 18th, 2008, the Celtics defeating the Cleveland Cavaliers in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference semifinals. That was on their way to winning Banner 18. Number 3, May 13th, 2013.
No, wait a second. Banner 17?
Oh.
You said 18. I don't know if you know this, but the Celtics only have 17 banners, not 18.
I might have to put the paper bag back on my head. May 13th, 2013, the Bruins rallied from down 4-1 to beat Toronto.
Oh, that should have been number 1. That was a great game.
Bergeron. Number 2 here for the top moments in the past 25 years in the Garden, the Bruins defeating the Lightning in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals in 2011 on their way to winning the Stanley Cup. And the number 1 moment in the 25-year history of the TD Garden, Banner 17.
Okay, so it's unfair because the Bruins won in Vancouver.
It's not my fault.
So I feel like if they had won the Garden, they'd at least be tied for number 1.
Mary.
And I'd like to point out that I think there were more Bruins moments on that list than Celtics moments.
I'd like to point out as well, the Bruins had a chance to win the Stanley Cup inside the Garden. Game 7
I would also like to point out that the Bruins have won more recently than the Celtics still, so.
By 3 years.
Still more recently.
All right, so what do you make of that top 10? Is there anything that you'd put in there?
I think that I don't know if I can't really think of anything to put in there that would be better than all of those. I think I would rearrange some of them, like the singing of the national anthem after the marathon bombing. I would put probably a lot higher. I don't know. I'm trying to think of like my own personal memories of the Garden, and there have been a few, but none that would impact any other people. So
I got a couple here. Okay. Number 1 is when Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett came back to the TD Garden after getting traded to the Brooklyn Nets.
Okay, yeah, that was good. That was a good moment.
And I think we're forgetting the most obvious one for the history of the TD Garden back when it was a Fleet Center. Obviously back in 1998 for WrestleMania 14. Mike Tyson knocking out Shawn Michaels. That is the moment inside the TD Garden that should have been in the top 10.
I'll have to take your word for it. I'm not a wrestling fan, and I was 2, so I don't know what you're talking about. I also think that, you know what should have been like the best moment, like the really best moment?
This is gonna be
it should have been when Kyrie Irving promised the season ticket holders that he was not going anywhere and he was going to make his career in Boston. Or it could be that the Isaiah Thomas tribute video on Paul Pierce night. Or when Paul Pierce, who we know, what was it? When they put Paul Pierce's number in the rafters and they did a tribute player for someone else. What was that?
Are you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
You done?
I'm done.
Feel
well, if you're
going
to bring up Game 7 of the Stanley Cup, I feel like I should be able to bring up other moments where the Celtics have looked dumb.
Well, you know what? When the Bruins can win inside the TD Garden and they can win the Stanley Cup, then you have an argument. Now I'm just sad.
I'm sorry. There's just so many moments and memories for the Boston Garden that
TD Garden.
TD Garden. Sorry. The Boston Garden, the old Boston Garden was like demolished like in the year I was born. So, because obviously they had to build the new one before demolishing the old one.
That's how it usually works.
And I think in my baby book, the first picture of like right before I was born is the demolished Boston Garden.
My favorite part, or my My favorite memory inside the TD Garden has to be when I went in for Bruins Canadians in the playoffs. Sitting in the very last row of the balcony, screaming Carey Price's name as he was getting his teeth kicked in Game 1, and my friend knocking a cup of cookies over, almost inciting a fight. So
I've never had the fortune of going to a playoff game. So I am jealous of that experience, but yeah, hopefully it's hopefully at some point I'll be able to do it, but I can't afford it because playoff tickets at the Boston Garden for both teams are astronomically priced.
Well, you can buy tickets now. There's nothing going on. So
yeah, exactly.
All right, let's get to the picks.
Okay.
What do you have for stats? Because I feel so much better now.
Okay, so last week you went 3-3. I went 2-4. We both had the Seahawks, which ended up being an incorrect pick. But I feel like it's not a pick that I regret because I would have probably picked them no matter what.
How about the Patriots?
Yeah, I picked the Patriots because I've decided that I'm just going to keep picking them no matter what, even if it costs me the whole season when it comes to picks. So currently the records, you're 24-18, I'm 26-16. So you're 2 games back right now.
Closing the gap here.
Yep.
Got some opportunities coming up here. Week 8, good slate of games here. Starting off with the 3-3 Raiders visiting Cleveland, who are 5-2. Still crazy to say.
I know.
All right, so why don't you go ahead and start us off?
I'm gonna pick the Raiders, mostly because I don't trust Baker Mayfield. Because it's like you see on Twitter that it was like a cycle, like, oh, Baker Mayfield has an excellent game is usually followed up by him being terrible. So I'm going to go with the Raiders.
I think this is going to be an ugly game between these two teams, but I'm going to take the Browns to improve to 6-2 just because Baker Mayfield, even without OBJ, still has a lot of offensive weapons.
Oh, sure.
And this is going to be a shootout game. The Browns can't win a defensive struggle. And if you're trying to go into a shootout that's going to be first to 40 wins, I had the Browns.
I just think no OBJ, no Nick Chubb. It's going to be hard to keep things going for them with 2 big names off of their offense like that.
All right, next up here, Indianapolis visiting 3-3 Detroit, coming off of a Atlanta Falcons throwing up on incident. I have the Colts winning in Motown.
Yeah. I want to pick the Colts, but I'm like weighing, should I just pick opposite of you because I want to win, or do I go with my gut and pick the Colts? I'm just going to pick the Colts.
Do we actually win anything for this, or?
I'm sure I can figure something out.
Okay.
We'll just actually split the fantasy football money when our fantasy league gets canceled because the NFL screws up.
No, because I'm going to be winning the league, and I'm not going to share half my money.
I don't know if you know this, but you're not winning the league.
And you sure as hell aren't either.
No, but
Pittsburgh and Baltimore. Steelers are 6-0. Baltimore's 5-1.
I'm going to pick the Steelers. I love the Ravens. I really do. But right now, I don't think much is going to be able to stop this Steelers offense. So I'm going to go with the Steelers.
I'm going to take the Steelers as well, just because they have way too many weapons on both sides of the ball. Baltimore, I think, is going to have 5,000 people in the stands, which isn't a lot of noise. If this were a game where there'd be 65,000 people doing the Seven Nation Army chant, then I think I'd go toward Baltimore. But
that song's going to be stuck in my head now.
You're welcome. But in these times, I have to go with Pittsburgh.
Fair enough.
Next up, San Francisco visiting 5-1 Seattle. That game at 4:25, and I will take Seattle because it's very rare you see Russell Wilson, Tyler Lockett, and Pete Carroll lose back-to-back games, and especially with this game taking place in Seattle.
I wanted to take the Seahawks too, John.
We're going back and forth here, Mary.
I'm just going to take them because I'm not trying to get you to win.
There's still 7 more weeks to go. I mean,
I know. I'm
2 games.
I know. I'm just trying to protect my lead, man.
All right.
And besides, I have to pick the Patriots, and they're going to lose. So you'll probably win anyways.
All right, here, before we go to the Patriots, let's go down to South Beach. The Rams taking on the 3-3 Miami Dolphins, who now
Oh
have Tua
yeah.
Tagovailoa starting at quarterback.
I'm gonna go with the Rams, mostly because as well as I hope Tua does in his, first game as a starter, if I'm Tua and my first game is Aaron Donald in my face, I'm freaking out. So I'm gonna go with the Rams.
I'm going to take the Dolphins, not just because my father is a Dolphins fan and,
For some reason.
well, he lived in Miami during the perfect season. I mean, that's a
Fair
reason.
enough. Yeah, but he's been
But
living
still,
in Massachusetts for 6 Super Bowls for the Patriots.
you talk about Aaron Donald. Tua is a very mobile quarterback, obviously. His
Yeah.
hip seems like to be in good shape now.
Yeah.
I mean, don't forget you have weapons.
Aaron Donald's got his
Dolphins.
number though. It's not gonna be pretty.
All
I
right.
guarantee you Fitzmagic will be playing by the end of the game.
I don't know. He seemed kind of down the dumps about his position.
Oh yeah,
They might
he's
need to give him some
miserable.
counseling.
Yeah, you know what? He should come to the Patriots. We need a quarterback.
Well, speaking of the Patriots, the team that lost apparently their best wide receiver, set to lose their best secondary player.
Yeah.
Their quarterback is a shell of himself. Their best running back got one reception for 3 yards.
Yep.
They're taking on the Buffalo Bills, who are leading the AFC East.
Should I just write Bills in for you right now before we even explain it?
I mean, I was going to break a table in my pick, but now that you've ruined it, I guess we're not breaking a table.
Well, I'm going Patriots because I'm a woman of my word, and I'm not going to go back on riding or dying with the Patriots all season. So, John, you might have to mail that to me, but disinfect it first.
All right.
Oh, God.
That'll do it for this episode of the Out of Bounds podcast. For Mary, I'm John. We'll see you later.